Hello, good evening and welcome to Newsnight. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Here are stories making headlines tonight. Pressure mounts on Western Region representative on the Council of State to resign following damning corruption revelations about her and her company, La Bianca Limited. Meanwhile, some political analysts and economists strongly demand the removal of some non-performing ministers and other government appointees to pave way for competent and selfless hands to transform the economy. Counting in Kenya's presidential elections is currently underway. Public health specialist cautions exposing sachet water to excessive heat as the Food and Drugs Authority debunks claims of fecal matter in sachet water. And coming up in business, government of Ghana looking forward to receiving $3 billion over 3 years instead of the previous $1 billion initially announced. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. President Akufo-Addo has refuted claims he contacted the flag bearer of the All Progressive Congress, Bola Tinubu, in Nigeria to step aside to improve the chances of the businessman and presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, while he seeks treatment for his health. On March 24, 2022, Peter Obi declared his intention to run for the position of the President of Nigeria under the ticket of the People's Democratic Party, but later pulled out and announced he would be running under the Labour Party platform instead. The businessman is running head-to-head against APC candidate Bola Tinubu and the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, in the 2023 elections in Nigeria. Although Obi is accused of investing state money in a family business, he has since denied any involvement in corruption. On Tuesday, President Akufo-Addo, in a tweet, said reports that he had written to the APC flag bearer Tinubu to give a chance to Peter Obi was completely false and mischievous. He concluded Ghana and Nigeria bear strong diplomatic ties, and as such, it will be out of place for him as president to interfere in the internal affairs and politics of Nigeria. President Akufo-Addo has again disclosed that he will not reshuffle his ministers despite mounting pressure by Ghanaians, come as a surprise to experts who are worried the economy may soon take an irreversible dip if nothing urgent is done about some of his appointees.
President Akufo-Addo's government has in recent times come under heavy criticism for the rising cost of living, inflation, general economic hardship, and the performance of some of his appointees. In an interview with Tamale-based North Star Radio as part of his working visit to the northern region, President Akufo-Addo rejected public calls to reshuffle some of his ministers.
Many of them, for me, have done an outstanding work. Their output has been considerable. And that's what I look at.
Okay.
There's an issue about reshuffle or the performance of ministers. It isn't as if it is something that every now and then my mind comes to.
Okay.
It's a daily preoccupation for me.
Yeah.
I'm required on a daily basis to ask myself whether the output of particular ministers is up to the mark. I am the final authority, and if they're not up to the mark, I'm required to act.
Yeah.
But if the output measures the expectations, then I don't have any strong reasons to heed them.
But for some experts, the continuous economic retrogression and near collapse of the economy requires a bold move by the president to either whip non-performing ministers in line or replace them with more competent hands.
Long overdue, there should have been a reshuffle because, I mean, what reshuffle does is that the market communicates, it listens to voices, right? I talked about, signal and voice, right? Regardless of what is happening, when you mention some names and say, okay, we're having some change, the market definitely is going to respond to it. And I think that fundamentally, we've had a finance minister who is in the second term, and I think he's done well. He needs to pat himself at the back, or we give him applause and bring someone in with fresh blood, fresh energy.
I strongly support the call for a reshuffle, and I think the finance minister has done his bit, and probably we need new faces around the table.
A cross-section of Ghanaians also believe this is the opportune time for the president to show leadership by calling out non-performing ministers.
I don't know when Ghanaians break that is reshuffle the ministers, he has to refuse. He's the father of the nation. When we have to say something, he has to accept it.
Baby, I got a corner. Yaninje kura papa, yaninje wabrabomo, it's a sir, papa. Ontinasi, the Nene Crawford, on so munyina, what by a mistake we are you.
We are not happy with the direction of the country. We are appealing to the president to dismiss non-performing ministers because they are here to serve Ghanaians and not for their personal interest. So the president must take action.
I want the president to change Honorable Amankwa Atta, the Minister of Road and Highway. First of all, why am I saying so? It suggested that the road toll booth will be used for toilet facilities. And then the president came back and said there will be need for the toll booth to come back. So if the president had gone ahead to use it for toilet facilities, and now he's saying he wants to come back with the toll booth, what are they going to use it for? Like, would they have used any other thing apart from the same thing? So I think the Minister of Highway should be booted out.
For Member of Parliament for Adaklu, Givens Kwame Agboja, the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is at the very center of the economic mismanagement and therefore needs to go.
When we are calling for a reshuffle at the finance ministry, it's not personal because we know that will automatically affect other sectors. So for me, whether fisheries minister, whether road minister, whether the transport minister, for me that is not the point. The point is that the finance ministry wields so much control over what government does, and he's unable to do that. We are just piling on the debt. The only thing this finance minister knows how to do is to borrow more. So he's only concerned about the downgrade is that he's not going to be able to borrow money. But managing a country's economy cannot be only about borrowing. So we are focusing on him, not because it's personal, but because when that is addressed, or maybe it will address other issues as well.
Meanwhile, a professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Godfred Bobkin, says the finance minister must resign.
I think it's long overdue. If they fail to see that, let's live with it. You see, part of why the markets discredit the ministry and the media review and the 2022 budget is that government is overly optimistic, okay? And such projections do not reflect reality. So when you see, for instance, I'll give you an example. What was the ministry looking at when they were hoping to end 2022 with inflation of 8% with a symmetrical rate of 2%? Okay, 3-4 months down the line, inflation is in the double digits. Look at the variance between where inflation is now and what government was hoping to achieve in the 2022 budget, and see the level of revision and the variance in there. So and then again, you're also looking at how much government was hoping to generate from e-levy, over 6 billion, and look at the revision that they've made now to almost 10% of what they were hoping to generate. The 80% variance, 90% variance could not solely have been as a result of the delay in the passage of the e-levy. In the first place, we said and we have maintained that e-levy was poorly conceived. It was wrong by conceptualization and is going to be problematic by way of implementation.
Right.
It's not the way to go.
Okay.
All that government needed to do was to have listened and withdraw the e-levy, because you need to grow the digital economy, because that is where the potential is. Look, the most effective way to manage your debt is to grow your economy, because your debt repayment capacity is a function of your GDP growth, growing your economy, export earnings, and then revenue generation.
Meanwhile, former President John Dramani Mahama has urged government to hold a national dialogue on the economy following the latest downgrade by rating agency S&P. Here are details of his Facebook post. Media review of the 2022 budget failed to win back the confidence of the investor community and the Ghanaian public. Unfortunately, no credible remedial plans have been put forward by the government to salvage the economy. A national dialogue on the economy, bringing some of our best brains together, will serve us well, even as we prepare for debt restructuring and negotiation of an IMF program. Right, let's still stay on this and go into the telephone lines and speak to Felix Kwakye Ofosu, who is a former communications minister under former President John Dramani Mahama. Mr. Ofosu Kwakye, grateful for your time tonight. The government says homegrown policies have been tabled before the IMF. Why would former President John Dramani Mahama call for a national dialogue?
Well, no homegrown policies have been tabled before the IMF. If such, as I speak to you, the IMF has not even finished collecting data on the state of the Ghanaian economy. So no traction has been had on an IMF program. In fact, this government went to the IMF 2 years later than they should have gone. They should have gone immediately after the 2020 elections, when it became apparent that the economy had been run aground and that all our fiscal indicators were pointing south. When the turmoil began, the decline began, and suffering and pain and hardships were becoming the lot of the ordinary Ghanaian, this government should have gone to the IMF. We prevailed on them to go. They refused to do so. They went to the IMF at a time when tremendous damage had been done to the economy. But you see, the IMF is a lender of last resort. The money that they give to governments that enter their programs belong to a revolving fund to which all their member countries contribute. So they are interested and are keen on recovering those monies. Because of that, if you come to them for a program and they determine that your economy is not in a position to manage those resources properly and be able to pay back, they are not going to give you the money upfront without demanding specific measures to ensure that you can pay. So our debt is such that the IMF does not have confidence that we'll be able to pay. So it is most likely that they will ask us to restructure our debt. Those discussions revolving around restructuring can take up to a year or two. Indeed, only last week or the other, Zambia concluded 2 years of discussion with its creditors to restructure their debt before the IMF touched them with a long pole. So now we are looking at least 1 year interval between the time we made a request and the granting of the program. Now, in between that time, the economy continues to deteriorate. The Minister for Finance presented a mid-year budget review about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Since then, the economy has continued to deteriorate to the point where S&P, one of the major international credit rating agencies, has downgraded us further. The cedi has continued to plummet. As I speak to you, it is being sold for above 9 cedis to $1 on the forex market. Indeed, some have claimed that even on the black market, it's selling for $10. The pound sterling is above 11 cedis to 1 pound sterling.
So Felix, what exactly will this national dialogue bring to the economy?
So what is going to happen is that ideas from what the former president describes as some of our best economic brains will be tapped to find immediate solutions to the immediate pressing problems, pending the granting of a program by the IMF. In any event, the IMF will look forward to concrete measures by this government that they will table before them to underpin any program that they will grant us. The formulation of that program requires the best brains and the deepest thoughts they can offer on how to salvage the situation, because it is clear that this government that has supervised the collapse of the Ghanaian economy does not have the capacity or wherewithal or even the know-how to formulate a concrete, tenable, viable, homegrown program to table before the IMF. Okay. And they need all the help they can get. So the earlier the president and his supposed head of the economic management team, who now is more interested in religious politics than the management of the economy, listen to this request by the former president and convene this dialogue, the better for all of us, so that we will at least halt the decline in the economy, so that the people of Ghana who are going through hardships, severe, excruciating hardships, facing escalating cost of living with the daily increases in the cost of goods and services, will have some relief even before the IMF comes.
Okay. Will the NDC be prepared to meet government to dialogue on the economy if need be?
Absolutely. Indeed, even before government responds to the request for or the call for a national economic dialogue, indeed, the government should not even have waited for such calls to be made. But we have made it nonetheless. The former president, in May of this year, held a lecture at an event called Ghana at Crossroads. If you read his speech, he tabled 11 different proposals on how the current economic situation can be addressed. That is available for free. So we have publicly stated some of the things we believe can be done to address the economic problems we have. So we'll be more than willing to attend such a dialogue and offer whatever help we can to ameliorate the problem. Because at the end of the day, the economic hardships do not discriminate between NDC and MPP people. It does not discriminate against the kind or nature or coloration of the Ghanaian. Everybody is facing that hardships, and we all are interested in getting out of the mess that we find ourselves in at the moment.
Felix, there's growing calls for the finance minister to be sacked following the current economic situation we find ourselves in. Do you support that?
Of course. The former president has made that point consistently. The finance minister simply does not have a clue on how to salvage the situation. He is the one who has supervised, of course, under the supervision of the head of the economic management team, Alhaji Bawumia. These two have plunged the Ghanaian economy into its worst crisis in over 40 years. So they cannot be relied upon to offer any proposals to get us out of the mess. In fact, if you want proof of that, consider the fact that shortly after the Minister of Finance presented a mid-year budget review, investors have continued to jack up their yields on the international markets. The cedi has continued to decline. International rating agencies have further downgraded us. It is the clearest indication that they do not have confidence in the mid-year review that the minister presented. So the minister has lost credibility. He no longer commands the respect of stakeholders within the Ghanaian economy and beyond. And the president must have realized this long ago. So he must put aside familial relations. The fact that the minister is his cousin is no reason why we must continue to labor under the yoke of his incompetence, his mismanagement of the economy. The president must definitely get rid of him, so that somebody who is imbued with better appreciation of the Ghanaian economy and what strategies are required to manage it is appointed in his stead, so we can reverse this horrible decline that we are all suffering under.
Felix Kwakye Ofosu, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight. He's a former Deputy Information Minister. Two other stories. The Ghana Private Road Transport Union will from October require drivers under the union to subscribe to a mandatory vehicle towing system for the prompt removal of broken down vehicles on the road. The new towing system allows drivers to subscribe to an online application that has been developed to effectively deliver service.
The Road Safety Authority says most road crashes are caused by broken down vehicles. These vehicles are parked dangerously in the middle or on shoulders of roads, blocking the view of oncoming drivers. In some instances, warning signs are not even placed behind these vehicles to caution oncoming drivers. This is what the Ghana Private Road Transport Union aims to deal with by ensuring that Vehicles belonging to the union which breaks down are immediately towed off. The contractual agreement between the GPRTU and RSMSL requires vehicle owners to pay annual subscription fees depending on the type of vehicle. Per the payment regime, taxis will be charged 50 Ghana cedi, trotros 80 Ghana cedi, long buses 300 Ghana cedi, and articulated trucks 500 Ghana cedis. According to the General Secretary of the GPRTU, Godfred, the project will have an incubation period between August and the end of September before it will be rolled out in October.
We had gone on further to even adapt the touring service as now our project, and that GPRTU will lead it and make sure all our members will subscribe. What we have to do now is that between July now up to October is going to be the incubation period where we'll have to design an app and all the other things that members will be able to hook up and subscribe to it. That whenever a car is damaged, it's easier to contact the officers there, and then your vehicle will be towed at a highly subsidized fee, which will be paid once in a year.
David Adontin is the National Director for Planning and Programs at the Road Safety Commission.
Passengers are now going to receive electronic tickets. They are going to pay online. There will be e-tracking. There will be training. And there would also be compliance with regulations and directives that are provided by the National Road Safety Authority. And beyond that, there is also going to be a thing of the past, vehicles broken down on the road and killing and maiming many Ghanaians.
Industrial Relations Officer of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, Abbas Imoru, expressed his optimism the initiative to help curb road crashes.
There is going to be a document given to you, a card with emergency numbers. If your car breaks down or you had any problem, you just call the toll-free line, and immediately, less than 30-40 minutes, there will be someone there to make sure they salvage you from the problem.
The GPRTU believes it has the capacity to enforce the mandatory vehicle towing service.
Kenyans are electing a new leader today. We'll be speaking to an expert on what to expect out of this election. But let's have some quick facts about Kenya's elections before we indulge Dr. Eche Sikanku. President Uhuru Kenyatta, constitutionally barred from seeking a third five-year term, has publicly criticized his deputy and endorsed Raila Odinga. Kenyatta's Kikuyu ethnic group, the nation's most populous, has produced 3 of 4 presidents since independence from Britain in 1963, but does not have a presidential candidate this time. Recognizing the importance of ethnic voting blocks, both front runners have picked a Kikuyu vice presidential candidate. So this is the deputy president of that country. He's in the person of William Ruto. Ruto has pledged to boost spending for small farmers and private businesses and reform national health insurance and social security funds. Raila Odinga is a veteran politician in that country, and he has pledged to stamp out widespread graft and give a monthly stipend to the unemployed, universal health care, and free education to all. We also have another person in the shape of George Wajakoya. He pledges to legalize cultivating marijuana for industrial and medicinal use and export hyena testicles and snake venom to help pay Kenya's external public debt. David Waihiga also pledges to tackle government graft and publish the government contracts for major infrastructure projects such as railways, ports, and highways. Right, so let's now engage Dr. Eche Sikanku. Good evening, Doc. Welcome to the program. Let's start this way. How is the Kenyan presidency won? Is it 50% plus one vote like it is in Ghana, or how is it won?
50 plus one.
Okay. Now, one striking thing about this election is that the incumbent president, Uhuru Kenyatta, is backing the opposition in the person of Raila Odinga instead of his deputy. Is this likely to have an effect on the results?
Yeah, absolutely. This is not something that is usual in politics, although it has happened every now and again, or it does happen every now and again. So definitely, it would have a very, very big impact. Uhuru Kenyatta's support for his one-time opponent, Raila Odinga, was definitely one of the major conversations that dominated this election, one of the major narratives that has dominated this election, and definitely would play a major role in the outcome of the election.
Okay. One thing that has come in question is his age. He's 77 years old. Do you think he's going to be fit enough for office? Should he be elected?
We've seen presidents as old as that age in different places across the world who have taken over the mantle of leadership. It's not something new, but definitely it is something to notice in terms of that age factor. So yes, Raila Odinga, this is the 5th time that he's running for president. He's a much older candidate compared to William Ruto, who is in his mid-50s.
Okay.
Yeah, but he does have the experience, and he has run a very, very active and energetic campaign.
Who among those two candidates is likely to emerge victorious?
The polls have just closed. The counting the votes now. The transmission process is ongoing, and the numbers have begun trickling in. At this point, as we speak, not a whole lot has been counted, but for the few votes that have started trickling in, Raila Odinga has taken a very, very, very slim lead. But we know these are all early days, and there can be no certitude, or we cannot be certain about anything until the very, very, very last vote is counted. So we wait to see how it happens. Kenya is definitely one of the significant, one of the major countries on the African continent. Occupies a very, very pivotal role in very, very different respects. And I believe that this is one election that is being watched all across the world. So many issues have dominated the campaign, from issues of corruption to the plight of the poor, the women's vote, the ethnic cleavages and all of that. And today is the day that everything really comes down to the wire, and we wait to see what the outcome of the election will be.
All right, Dr. Eche Sikanku is an international communications analyst. Thank you very much for speaking to us tonight. You're still watching Newsnight here on Metro Television. Now, still to come in this bulletin, Bermuhini of Okuapeman denies involvement in shooting incident at Okuapehima's palace. That's what's coming up after the break.
Nankanya kwekema ena eguyensu.
Harbour's authority. For some watchers, the Council of State member should have resigned by now if The president and his executive are determined to fight corruption. The call is for the president to conduct deeper investigations into the matter to prove his commitment to fighting corruption. Let's get on to the telephone lines and speak to Vitus Azim, who is an anti-corruption crusader. Mr. Azim, good evening. Welcome to Newsnight.
Thank you.
She resign or not?
It is not a question of whether she should resign or not. She should resign. Straightforward. Council of State is for senior citizens who have had a lot of experience and are supposed to be able to advise the president on key national issues.
Okay.
They should be role models. So if you are involved in this, it is just necessary that you should resign. It shouldn't be a question of or not.
Right. Now the special prosecutor has come into the matter. Do you think there could be some government interference into this matter and it will die down?
Well, I think it's too early for one to conclude that there will be some interference. Otherwise, the report wouldn't have been released. The report has been released, the monies have been recovered, it has been made public. So I believe that if there was some government interference, the report wouldn't have even been made public. So I don't want to have entertain that suspicion now until something else comes up.
Right. How serious is this politics of patronage in our country, where people use their political power to purchase something at a rather reduced price than they should have?
It is serious, it is widespread. The issue of do you know who I am? You see, the problem is on the appointments of the heads of these institutions. When the appointing authority is just one person, the president, who is also usually influenced by his party, I don't mean just one particular government, but every government. The ruling party influences the president in his appointments of heads of these institutions. And it has deteriorated to even lower other management staff. So when you feel obliged or you owe your allegiance to the appointed authority and his ruling party, you are more or less constrained in some of the things that you can do.
Right.
And so people take advantage of it to their personal benefit.
Mr. Vitus Azim, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight. Now, the Bermuhini of Okuapemai Nana Aferi Bampo II has debunked claims of leading thugs to cause mayhem at the Okuapehima's palace, leading to the shooting of one person. This was in response to a shooting incident which occurred last Saturday at a 40 days funeral observation of the late family head of the Nketia royal family of Kropon.
The Bermuhini, in an interview with Metro TV, stated on the said Saturday he was to go and perform a rite to the Fofie gods, which reside at the Queen Mother's palace. Owing to the plans that had been plotted by assigns of the Queen Mother, they decided to breach the ban on noise making to cause mayhem. Upon reaching the palace, where he was scheduled to perform the rite, he was attacked, which led to the accidental discharge of the firearm by one of his men who had followed him to go and perform the traditional rite, leading to the injury of one Abrosi.
Nemma nanom ena eto se meso na de nemma ne etua no na mere kire se yampa na mpanin se ampani ampa ni nuane ampa na se yampa se ode se kronkron eye Nketia abusua panin asante amri na watase en wori dina da duanan na benmofo erekọ na da duanan diase akoya mane a na nkanya kwetwemba enenananom ena eguyensu wode otuo ne sekan ene ma esiayen.
I was attacked by the children and grandchildren of the Queen Mother, which led to the accidental discharge of the firearm. The Okuapemhene is not legible to declare whether or not the Dua festival celebration will come on or otherwise. I want to state emphatically that Okuapemam is a respected and law-abiding state, and so every person should accord it with the respect.
He further added, the Okuapem Adontenhene Otobo Jan Kwesi II does not have the locus to declare whether the Ojura festival celebration will come off or otherwise, and that all should disregard his assertion.
Eka de butu a yemutu dipa. And to yara a so.
He therefore declared that the Ojura will come on and sent a word of caution to all visitors who will be celebrating Ojura with the people of Okuapeman to be law-abiding and respect customs and rights of the Okuapeman traditional area.
Mesre, niede asumgebe banise. Okuapini senemra anoboni de wura. Yenye mra somfo. Yenye mre difo. Na yema asumgei enimpuntu emro mangim.
Well, after the break, Winston Taki will be here with the latest in business. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Newsnight Live on Metro TV. My name is Winston Taki. And now to a first business story. The Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research has called on the government to develop strategies targeted at growing its GDP in order to boost investor confidence in the economy.
Yes, it's curtailed because we hit the threshold. But the numbers is debt GDP. If you're able to grow your GDP, your debt GDP ratio will come down. So for me, I want to see a strategy, a medium-term strategy to gradually reduce our debt GDP ratio. When that is reduced, with macro stability, inflation coming down, etc., you will find that we will become attractive to the international capital market. So as we reduce our domestic borrowing, we gradually increase our external borrowing, especially if we can get multilateral funds. World Bank, IMF, African Development Bank, they are cheaper, sometimes below 2%. Commercial market will pay 8%, 9%, and that will save us a lot of money. In order to achieve the budget deficit target, which we think is ambitious, we have to enhance our revenue generation. And one area is a non-tax revenue, state-owned enterprises, property rates especially. We think we can rake in more revenue from non-tax revenue.
Now, the government of Ghana is looking forward to receiving $3 billion over 3 years from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, once an agreement on the program is reached. The new amount requested as a loan is double the amount's initial target of $1.5 billion.
According to the international news agency Bloomberg, the new amount requested as a loan was double the government's initial target of $1.5 billion. Ghana's government is in talks over a loan of about $3 billion from the International Monetary Fund. An IMF emailed response to the news outlet also indicated that it was too early to comment on the subject, maintaining that the executive board of the Bretton Woods institution ultimately wielded power in determining the program for Ghana. The IMF, in response to the news outlet, said the negotiations for the program is starting now, and for that matter, it's too early to comment on the final form the program will take. The Extended Credit Facility for Low-Income Countries is the fund's main tool for medium-term support for countries facing protracted balance of payment problems similar to Ghana's. The duration of such an arrangement is between 3 to 4 years and extendable to 5 years. The final program is ultimately decided by the IMF's executive board. It will be recalled that the government on June 1 made a U-turn on its strong position of not seeking support from the IMF amid an economic downturn. A team from the IMF arrived in the country on July 6 and engaged Ghanaian authorities for a program aimed at restoring macroeconomic stability and safeguarding debt sustainability, among many others. The government has continuously maintained that it will negotiate a good deal with the International Monetary Fund.
Earlier today, most customers with accounts with GT Banks received text messages indicating that the bank will no longer accept the 50 and 20 paper note. The bank has, through its official Facebook page, come out to clarify that the currency in question is the British pound and not the Ghana cedi. They went ahead to apologize for any misrepresentation caused by the earlier SMS. That'll be all for business here on Newsnight. My name is Winston Taki. Sports is next after this break. Keep watching.
Let's focus on athletics. Then the next Diamond League will take place in Monaco with a focus on Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce.
While destination Zurich has already been achieved by some, others still need to pick up points if they are to have a shot at winning the Diamond Trophy at the end of the season. Enter the Monaco leg of the 2022 Wonder Diamond League campaign, where Olympic and World Championship talent will once again be on display. The men's 200 meters will once more demand plenty of attention, while defending champion Kenny Bedranek and his fellow Americans will once more look to get the job done. The season's best time in the men's 200 at the Diamond League still belongs to Luxolo Adams. The South African sensation, who leads the standings to date, came first the last time the event featured back in Paris. It is yet to be confirmed for Monaco, however, which will see the likes of Noah Lyles, Michael Norman and Arian Knighton look to keep Bedranek from a third victory of the season. 6 events for men alongside 8 for women, led by the 100 meters, where nobody else but Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce will demand top billing. And why, you may ask? Well, 10.66 seconds. That's why. The world leading time, it's what she got up to over the weekend, and while that race didn't have any points on offer, Monaco does. It does seem as if nobody can at the moment stop the Jamaican, unless, of course, world champion Shericka Jackson stands up and says, watch this. She'll feature, as will Ivorian Marie-Josée Talou, currently top of the 100-meter standings. Look out for the rare event of the men's 1,000 meters, which will feature a trio of Kenyans, including Emmanuel Korea and Ferguson Cheriot-Rotich, while in the women's 1,500 meters, 2 of the current top 3 in the standings, in Hirut Mishesha and fellow Ethiopian Aksumawit Mbaye, will battle it out.
Well, that's your sports. My name is Phil John Quarter. Up next, Showbiz. Isidro will be taking us all the way to Arusha, Tanzania. Stay tuned.
Well, it's time for Showbiz News. My name is Isiodua Akumia. Ghanaian actress and social media sensation Ekapim Polo, originally called Rosamond Alade Brown, took to her Instagram this afternoon to share with her fans the news of she becoming full Muslim. The caption read, Alhamdulillah, full Muslim now, thanks to the Deputy Imam of Aswaj Ghana West and Chief Imam on Insekina Quran reciter and his board for assisting in this. Muslim fans of Polo show their love to the socialite by congratulating and welcoming her in the comments section. Now, away from that, on Monday, August 8, Buga crooner Kizz Daniel was arrested on failing to perform at a paid event in Tanzania. Now, speaking on Entertainment Review via Zoom earlier, entertainment presenter in Tanzania, Tony 16, gave us some updates on the arrest.
People are just finding money. People are hustling to get money. People are hustling to get what is the best for them. So once they pay for the service that they deserve or the service that they expect to get their, their service, then they don't get them. That's become a problem. Not just in Tanzania, even Ghana, anywhere that someone pays something, then you don't get the service, you don't get what you expected. Of course, people reacted negatively and it was bad. It is still bad because the case is still going on and the people claims to get back their money. People want their money back. You know how hard it is for the organizers, for I think the whole team who gathered together and prepared this show because this show was like a venture thing, a partnership.
Yeah.
It was a partnership. It was a radio partner. There was radio people, there were club people, and there were people who came from his management, as they are saying, because they said one of his boss was included on the preparation of that show.
That's it for entertainment news. My name is Esiodua Akumia. Kenneth?
Thank you very much for that entertainment update. International news is next.
A Guinean political coalition has called for a renewed demonstration against the ruling junta, ending a truthful lack of response to its demand for credible dialogue on the transition to civilian rule. The National Front for Defense of the Constitution, a coalition of parties, unions, and civil society organizations, initiated the July 28 and 29 demonstrations, which were banned by the authorities. U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday signed into law a bill providing $52.7 billion into subsidies for U.S. semiconductor manufacturers and research in a landmark effort to boost United States competition with China's scientific and technology initiatives. The Biden administration had previously underscored that the legislation, now called the CHIPS and Science Act, is vital to national security, competing with China and reducing U.S. dependency on Taiwan and South Korea for critical technologies. Israeli troops killed 3 Palestinians and injured dozens more in a shootout on Tuesday during an arrest operation in the city of Nablus in the occupied West Bank. The Palestinians' health ministry said the shootout came a day after a ceasefire ended 3 days of fighting between Israel and Palestinian Islamic Jihadi militant group in the Gaza Strip.
It's a wrap for tonight. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.